Hey guys, it's Danny. So, do you guys ever have those days when you simply cannot pull yourself together to do anything? Well, I'm having one of those days. I started to clean up my pots, as you can see there. Things warmed up outside, so I can totally open all the windows of my greenhouse, get some proper ventilation, so those formations will not form all that much from now on, so it is a good time to remove them, right? Well, as I was doing it, I decided I really don't want to do this today. I decided to make a video instead, and today we're gonna answer some questions that I think have some more elaborate answers. Now, many of the answers will be my own opinion, but not necessarily. So for this reason, I shall state whenever we are dealing with a fact, and then I shall point out when things are my own deductions. They're not even opinions, they're my own deductions. Whether they're correct or not, I hope they're correct. Let's get to it. Okay, so one of the questions that I received recently was regarding this Phalaenopsis. If you remember this is a keiki from a Phalaenopsis that is now dying. I think the stem is all gone. So I saved the keiki, potted separately, and the keiki actually was producing another keiki. So I decided to cut away that keiki. Let me show you, the cut wound is completely sealed and this orchid is doing mighty well right now. So the reason I cut the keiki was for the orchid to focus on energy and so on. And somebody pointed out or asked me, why did I do it? Because plants know more than us and they already have an established schedule, and whatever they do for a reason. So pretty much we should not intervene and let the plants just display their nature and do their thing. Well, that's partially true, let's say, but only if you're referring to a plant in its native habitat, in its natural location, and so on. This orchid, in my opinion, has very little natural behavior in it. So let's talk about the facts. What is this? This is a Phalaenopsis orchid. It is a complex hybrid. What does that mean? Well, it means that in her parentage we will find multiple Phalaenopsis hybrids and species likewise. Now, who led to the creation of this orchid? Humans. This would never appear in nature. So from the get-go, we are not talking about a natural species, or how they like to call them, botanical species. This is one thing. Second, it is not taken from the wild, it is bred in captivity. I'm not sure if I should use this phrase, but yeah, that's what it is. So not only it is a man-made hybrid, it is also grown in captivity for hundreds and hundreds of years. The parents of this orchid might have been created artificially by humans as well, and they were all bred in captivity for many generations. So what does this mean? Well, partially it means that a lot of its initial traits, I'm not even sure what initial traits. A lot of Phalaenopsis species traits have been completely lost or altered with the process of hybridizing, but not only. If this isn't enough, let's talk about the bred in captivity aspect of things. What does it mean? Well, it means we really don't like to make natural selection. And speaking from the commercial side of things, we want as many seeds to germinate and to reach maturity. Therefore, we are providing more than ideal conditions for these orchids to grow. And when I say more than ideal, I mean a heck of a lot more than ideal. In nature, let's say from a batch of 1 million seeds, if 1 or 2 survives, well, that's a good ratio. There are so many variables in nature, like does it have the genetic structure to actually grow vigorously and survive whatever it will encounter in nature, provided she found a suitable location. In captivity, we don't want to hear about natural selection. We want to give the best conditions for offsprings to develop. Therefore, some of my orchids are not allowed to do whatever they feel like it, because what they feel like it sometimes goes against what's good for them. And that's not my fault. That's not their fault either. It's the fault of their genetic programming, which dictates all sorts of strange things because man created this orchid, not nature. Okay, so that was one of the questions answered, and I forgot to tell you where my own deduction came from. So the fact was that that orchid was created by humans, not nature. And also another fact was that there's no natural selection in captivity. And my deduction was the part that the orchid will not take the best decisions for it because I have no idea what those people did. Okay, so let's get to the second question that I wanted to address in one of my videos. I never knew what type of video I should make for it, so I'm just gonna talk about it in this video. It is related to fungicide. Now, you might know I have some issues in my collection lately, and many of you suggested that I do give a chance to fungicides. I am considering it, yes. There are, though, some things that I'm wary of. And no, it's not the toxicity issue, although that's one of them. I'm wary of that. But there's also another thing. So here's the fact. Pathogens and parasites can develop immunity to certain substances that used to kill them or affect them in order for them to thrive. If you will, they are the ones who adapt the fastest out of everything, faster than plants, faster than animals. Now, if you read the labels of systemic pesticides and fungicides and all of that, pretty much all of them suggest that you don't spray continuously with that particular fungicide and you rotate with a different substance throughout the year. After a year, you can use that particular substance once again and so on. But it's never advisable to only use one substance to treat a certain disease. It is always better to use 2 or 3. Pathogens can develop immunity to certain substances. So these are the facts. Now, I can tell you for sure that the best substance on the market, what everybody raves about, the thing that kills spider mites 100%, and this is abamectin, did not fully work for me. I did have some success with it, but I also had some failures. And speaking with somebody from the Ministry of Agriculture here, they told me this is just such a used substance that many mites and pests have actually developed immunity to it. Therefore, in order for me to control my infestation, I had to use multiple substances. And needless to say, that's not funny for me. First, because I would actually need a permit to buy all of these substances. Not everybody can use them. They're dangerous. And second of all, well, they're dangerous. So, my deduction is, if I start to use fungicides, I might have some good results with some orchids and some not so good results with others. I will not be able to say 100% that all of my collection will be in good state after I use fungicides or if I start to use them on a regular basis. What I do suspect is that if I overdo it a little bit with these fungicides, I might create a strain of Fusarium which will tolerate the substance and will not be killed by it if it's not already immune to the substance, because most probably in orchid nurseries, these orchids have seen quite a lot of fungicides and pesticides and so on. So, do I have a strain that is immune to the particular substance I will use or not? That is a question I cannot answer, and if I truly think about it, I'm not entirely sure if using fungicides is worth it for me. Now, sadly, I do not have an answer for Fusarium. If I will ever have an answer, a non-toxic and 100% successful answer, I shall be happy, but I'm not sure I will have it. However, for the past 3 years, I have been battling spider mites without any real success until this year. Until somehow I got a good idea of using a particular thing that kills them mechanically, and what do you know? It works 100%. I'm not developing any immunity in the spider mites that I have. I'm not using something they already have immunity to. I'm using something that kills them mechanically, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link you down below. And I'm happy. If I would have used pesticides for 3 years without success, well, all I would have achieved was pretty much a lot of stress from my part, maybe stress on the orchids, and some super spider mites immune to those substances, if they weren't already immune to it. It took 3 years for me to figure out how to properly kill them, but in the end I did figure it out. Now with Fusarium, I'm not sure if I will figure it out, but I do want to give me the chance to figure it out. And it will take a long time because of the nature of things, but I do want to have that chance to figure it out without starting to use fungicides that might or might not work. Okay, and the third aspect, and this is not necessarily a question, but a multitude of questions. I'll just summarize it as having the big picture. And the big picture, well, it's a very complicated piece of work. But the most important, in my opinion, piece of information about the big picture is your control. And what I mean by that is you understanding the control you have over what's happening in your collection, in your growing space, and so on. And there are a few facts in this subject as well, some facts that actually apply to you. So in your growing space, whether it's inside or outside, the determining factor that decides the evolution of a plant is not nature, it's not fungicides, it's really nothing else but you. It's mainly you. You decide when it rains, you decide light quantity, position, you decide medium, environment, temperature, and so on. Of course, external natural factors might aid you or might pose a threat to you. The simple fact that you grow your orchids outside and let's say you have a drought period and you decide to water the orchids, well, you're the one who will provide the rain. If you have a period of rainy days and you shelter the orchids, then you're the one who decides when rain stops. So pretty much over your orchid kingdom, you are the king. Of course, there are many things which you cannot control because whatever natural traits we have in our plants, sometimes they will show up and sometimes things can escape from our control. So don't imagine you can control everything 100%, but for the main part, you can control what's happening to your orchids. Once you realize that you have the possibility to control things, well, how do you control them? And there are two main allies that you have in this quest. One is logic, and of course you've heard me talk about this many times, but the other one that maybe I never mentioned because it just never hit me, the other one is knowledge. Sometimes I wonder why some people do not agree with me. There's nothing wrong they don't agree, but I want to understand where this disagreement comes from so that I verify my own set of rules and my own mindset, right? There's always a chance I miss some details. And sometimes I really cannot find those missing details and I cannot see things how other people see them. And it's not necessarily about logic because we all kind of have logic. This actually has more to do with knowledge. This is why you have a piece of information that sounds logical contradicting with another piece of information that also sounds logical. What makes the difference between them? Well, that's knowledge. And I'll give you a funny example, but it's true. So what is a sparrow? Well, because a sparrow has wings and it flies, then it must be a bird. Alrighty then, what is a bat? Well, because bats have wings and flies, they must be birds too. Now, from the point of view of logic, this is correct. We take into account a certain aspect that both of these animals have in common, flying. If we have knowledge, we know that one is a bird while the other is a mammal. And the fact that they both fly is not enough to put them in the same family of creatures. Knowledge is the thing that tells us these two animals are different, because the fact that they both fly has nothing to do with how they are classified. There are other things. So if you apply this concept to orchid growing and why some people do like this and say, hey, this is good because these reasons, and others say, no, this is good because these reasons, the only way to know what is closest from the truth is by comparing it to knowledge and by seeing what pieces of knowledge went into that decision or that statement. As you know, everybody has an opinion. There's even a joke about it, but I'm not gonna say it. So everybody has an opinion, and it's very good that everybody can share that opinion publicly, but opinions do not equal facts. So in the decision process that you will have to do, you have to take into account both the logical train of thoughts, but also where this logic came from. Did it come from a knowledge place or did it just come from an opinion place? There are two very separate things. And sadly, knowledge can only be acquired by personal research. Of course, many people can give you ideas of what to research about or can raise some points or can share with you some pieces of knowledge. If you want to extend that further, that's great. If you don't, work with the pieces of knowledge that you have. Returning to the first example of this video, that Phalaenopsis orchid that I decided it needs to be gotten rid of her keiki. The place of knowledge where I'm coming from is the fact that these orchids are not naturally occurring hybrids. And while yes, we did not create them from scratch, the end result that we have right now, for most of the orchids easily available, particularly complex hybrids, you cannot really let nature decide because nature doesn't have as much input in them as humans. And yes, you did not create them, but other people did. So because your orchid comes from a place that was artificially created by people, you letting nature do its thing is a very false statement. You are just letting that genetic pool that people decided take its course. And the course might really not be to your liking. Alrighty guys, thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. What are your thoughts? Leave comments down below. I do enjoy reading your comments. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for daily orchids and plants videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Yep, no flowers for me from the Millennium Magic this year. So I think I'm gonna go and buy some slow release fertilizer. I cannot really get Osmocote. For some reason it doesn't deliver to Cyprus, but I found something from Miracle Grow, so I'm just gonna do an experiment this year. Since it will be time to repot this orchid soon, I will just sprinkle a little bit of slow release fertilizer together with my current fertilizer and see if that makes my catasetums enormous.